I'm a hybrid between the ever-changing landscape of the graphic image, between analog, digital, yeah, and the in-between space of generative AI right now. But yeah, always experimenting with the forms of the classical and the new, and playing like a child, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's what gives me like the most happiness. Like most of the time I spend all day making shit, right? It's not like doesn't mean anything. Um but to try and just like I think like I'm more of a student, so I'm always tweaking, trying out, seeing the other, like to see the work of other good artists is always an inspiration. And sometimes it's like a technical curiosity, and sometimes it is a conceptual curiosity. So it's a balance of both. And yeah, form, yeah, playing with the form. Yeah, in a way, because when I was doing analog, I always wanted to like go to digital because analog was so slow and so painful, right? Uh, then when you do digital for a long time, and when you then you try to go back to analog and try to make digital analog, and you work with analog, and then it's all a mix, like yeah, because we all know like digital, like pure digital is so sterile, and but there is an aesthetic to the sterileness. It's the like, I mean, advertising language is sterile, right? Because it is so perfect, and you need to sell that brand or that image, and it needs to be perfect. It can't be imperfection. No, it has to be like. But having said that, uh, in my work, I always try to bring some emotion, some life into it with the imperfection, because right now in the age of AI, I mean, I firmly believe like it is the human imperfection that makes it stand out. And Yeah, so analog for me is like what was analog when I was younger, and what analog means now is definitely different, you know. It's shifting. It is not pure like, like a film grain. It's not analog like people use, like you watch on YouTube, people can just put a film grain, right? That does not make it analog, so it's like a bunch of things. It's like a feel, a vibe, how you edit it. Yeah, so the texture. Glitchborn is like a collaborative studio. It's not like a studio. So it's just me working with cool, talented people as a collective who I can relate to. Uh, and the vision is like to create things. I like glitch, and again, not like glitch is like a ghost in the machine, right? So I kind of see myself as this pirate in India, because everyone is so like mainstream and industry around me. So how I can make cool stuff while, you know, by not compromising, on the stuff I like. And so yeah, so Glitch Born. So I got the name from, I was reading what Game of Thrones, and it was like Iron Born. I'm like, oh, I'm like Glitch Born, like born out of a glitch. So I kind of, yeah. Motion design, or what we do, is very new to India. It's not like something which was there. I mean, we have a rich history, of image and culture, but over the years, with like it has eroded, and the aesthetic hierarchy of visual literacy is very poor in India, so it's always challenging. Uh, in the sense, like, I belong to a super minority group of people who's making stuff, and there is a big mainstream culture, and like India is a huge country, right? And it's like it's fueled primarily by Bollywood, uh, and a very strong mainstream culture, which has its authenticity, but yeah, there's an economic reality to the production of the image, like where people, when I say people, I mean the people who are responsible for creating the image, of producer and directors, they are not honest, I feel, about creating images. So the people who are uh, creating good images or good stuff is like a minority to whom I can relate to. So I face similar challenges trying to stay as much as true and authentic to my heroes, the why I got into this, and the people whose work I admire. So it's always like a balance, and also trying to educate the client, and it's good because good people reach out to you and they want to work together. And of course, I mean, for every good thing, it's always less. It's not like, you know, uh, I mean, at least in India, it's not like. Uh, so it's good, I guess, to be in a minority and uh, accept the challenge of like, okay, not everyone in India is into it, but the few people who appreciate it work with me and support it, and I feel that is growing. Maybe not as fast or not how I want it to be, but it's definitely better. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. you know. So yeah, I think that it's positive, but things can always be better. But so that's the challenge, and you have to, and at the end of the day, it's you can't, I mean, you only have to inspire people by making the work good. I mean, the better, that's the success. It's like, you make an album like Velvet Underground, right? I heard a story when they made their first album, they did not sell any, but it inspired like five more bands. So it's like that, I think. So yeah, I think in India we are the first sort of generation. I mean, there existed when MTV was there. When I was growing up, like a lot of cool people from design school, they used to work in MTV, and they didn't. But it was still, because you're like working and for a company, right? You're like an employee and you're working as like a 9 to 5, but not as a solo individual running, a studio and working with cool freelancers. It's very different. The the logistics and the dynamics. Yeah. To step back, it's definitely first, I would say, is the great Indian filmmaker Satyajit Ray. He's like a brilliant. So he's like the opposite of Lynch. He's like realism. Okay, like the neo-realist school of cinema, like Italian, and then as you then there is Lynch, and then there is Godard. Definitely, like, because Godard and Wong Kar-wai for me are like, it's like the same, but Godard is the original, and Wong Kar-wai is a more beautiful, romantic version of Godard. Of course, he's shooting in color, and it's more our times, present time generation, and more like he takes the essence of that of freestyle of early Godard cinema, and he pushes it up, like Chunking Express, and for well, the Argentina film like Happy Together. Oh my, that's my favorite film. Like Happy Together, Chunking, In the Mood for Love. But yeah, and the see, I learned. See, when I did not understand Godard for a long time. Like I was like, oh, it's like there has to be something to there. But Wong Kar Wai, it's like yeah, like sound and image, right? Godard is. I mean, I've watched Godard before Wong Kar Wai, but then I understood Wong Kar Wai, and then I went back to Godard and I understood like the editing of sound and image. So yeah, so it's like they are like the masters of cinema for me, and that's the same application I use in my work, like to break down. And even when I was editing films, it's like sound and image, right? To see them, and sometimes the image comes first, sound comes first, and how you balance it together. So Wong Kar Wai, Godard, and Lynch, sort of for me are like the holy trinity, like lot of like like head bashing. I was like working also with like people like good 3D people. Like I just jump in and uh, I suffer a lot, and then yeah, I have some good friends who I call up and like, and they're all younger to me, and I like it's like no, like we have a lot of fights. Like, I want to do it this way, they want to do it that way. Then I say, no, like, because I'm always looking at, like, oh, let's try this new thing, let's try that thing. And they are like, no, why? Like, we only have like so much of time to finish. And can we not make this like an art experiment right now? We just have to finish this. It changes. It changes depending on the project, on how. Sometimes it is very rigid. You have storyboards, and sometimes if the client or the director or producer you're working with gives you the room and the space, and then you can develop in a much more open, free way, and then piece it together. But depends. Everything depends on the time and the context. Uh, yeah, but once a few shots, few frames start coming together, and you get a taste of the mood, I think then everything starts like clicking. Like if I get 2 3 shots together, okay, then I know, like, okay, it's coming together. So yeah, it's something like organic. It's not like super consciously I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to do my best to make it as perfect, but I'm also not trying to be like a Nazi about it, like. Yeah, you just have to like push and play. Like, you get a sense, right? It's like that. And yeah, and then just be aware, when something is happening, and to know, to understand that, like, okay, wow, okay, I changed the lighting and now it's looking like this. I just did that and now it's looking like this. So maybe we can, go down this way. Like, so those kind of happy accidents, you know. But I think it's the time you spend with the material, uh, that gives you the awareness, like, and especially because as an editor, that's my background. So I'm constantly like, polishing, like going over the same thing or trying different permutation combination of this and that. And yeah, if the universe is flowing, then things happen. I haven't abandoned hands-on work. I'm still a solo artist. So it has nothing has changed. I'm still like working hands-on. I have to get my hands dirty. I have to edit. I have to do everything as much myself. Otherwise, I don't get the happiness or the sort of a control that I. But now I'm working with with a bunch of people who are really good. So sometimes they come up with stuff that I didn't think of, and I'm super happy about that. But because I'm a sort of a control freak and it's on my timeline, I yeah, it's still the same. It's nothing has changed. I So it's like I wish there were like more hours in a day to do like, I can do AI, I can do Houdini, I can do some modeling, I can do some music, and I can do that, and I can do this, and like, so it's like mad. So yeah, I mean, it's always like a tightrope, man. There is no, I think it is far more now, because if you look at the, like how cinema started, right? It's like the early pioneers of early cinema. There's no specialist. Everyone's doing everything. Like the same guy. He's doing the camera, he's doing the sound, he's doing the edit, he's doing the acting, he's doing the producing, right? And only when cinema developed, and then you have like a specialist, right? So director, photographer, yeah. So I like the early cinema, silent cinema model, like, you do in as much, uh, especially in this whole super hi-fi pipeline VFX world. Uh, yeah, I like to remain sort of a glitchy pirate kind of a operator, like, in the system. I love generative AI, but I'm like I was speaking to Karen last night, and both of us, it's like McDonald's, like you eat it, you get a high, and then you have a crash. So I've used it in production, very sneakily, but doing a lot of work on top of it. I use generative AI every day. I have like Claude open, ChatGPT open, Gemini open, because I take the same thing and I test it to get like, okay, I use Mid Journey all the time. uh for sometimes I'm like doing a render and I'm like bored, so I just take a snapshot of the render, and then I throw it up on chat gpt, and I tell chat gpt, describe what do you see, right? Because sometimes I don't know what I'm making also, and I'm very curious as to how the AI will depict my work. So I take that as a prompt and I feed it inside Mid Journey. Yeah, and I get some iterations, and I'm like, oh, super super cool, super interesting. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, but yeah, then yeah. So I think it's empowered me definitely, but sometimes it's also, I've had like days where I've just like, when it was just new, like, oh, super exciting, you generate a whole bunch of like images, but then after that, oh, it's like, yeah, what, I've got like 200 images, what am I going to do with it? And it's like, you know, and it's just that again, I'm non-judgmental about it, like it's just a tool, right? And I don't want to get like, oh, this is going to be, it is definitely powerful, but just to use it for what it is, and uh yeah, just to be aware and see, and also get inspired to see what some of the other artists are doing with AI. Hey, I never thought about using it that way. Experiment, play, don't get you, I mean, learn technology, be good at your craft, but know where it comes from, and know the past, and I mean, to know the future, sort of, so to be aware, not just be like a technical monkey, because a lot of the times I'm working with people, they're just interested in like just making that speaker or making that product car shot, and it looks great, but then you talk narrative with them or a story, and they have no interest or they don't understand. So I find that uh, sometimes disappointing, but it's also, I mean, maybe they just want to do that, but I feel it can be far more bigger than just the car product shot. Uh, yeah, I think for motion design, man, you have to know cinema. You have to know sound and image. It is so important. If you don't know sound and image, then you can't like you have to know Godard. I mean, you have to know like I mean, if you just want to be like a specialist, like a fluid sim expert or a hair technical director, that's fine. But if you want to be a overall creative director and you want to tell stories in whether short format or longer format, I mean, you have to be 360 degrees. You have to know stuff, music, cinema, art history, sculpture, fashion, photography, like you got to be curious. You got to stay open and absorb like everything. Like, well, it's funny because the last blockbuster project I worked, I made it into my personal art project. And it was super cool. Like, I got full freedom to do whatever I wanted. And because I made it into it was like a opening title for a big Bollywood blockbuster film in the theater. And the director told me, "Oh, I want the title sequence to be like that film." And I was like, "No, it can't be like that film." I did tell him that, but I did not also. Uh, I had to figure out like how I could make it like I know where he was coming from, but I wanted to do something new. So the only way I could do it was to conceptually make it, like that, but make it mine. And that was one of the best projects I feel I've done last year. Yeah, in my recent years, yeah, and that was it changed me as a human. I just loved it. And when the director saw it, he was like, "Wow, so cool!" And they were like, "Yeah." So yeah, so I made that blockbuster project into my personal art project rather. I've been a cinema 4D Octane user for a while. Uh, I'm I'm I've dabbled in Houdini for a while, but I've never been super comfy with it. But now I'm actively using, it's at least playing and making little art experiments with Houdini and Blender. With Octane, Blender is super cool, and I've installed this studio animation app, uh, Cavalry. But I think I need to play with it a bit more. It's really cool. It's like a vector style animation. Uh, yeah, I've got Comfy UI and all that installed, but I wouldn't say like super exciting. Yeah, mostly I think it's learning procedural design in Houdini, generative, and doing a bit of modeling in 3D code, which I'm into right now. Uh, Yeah, yeah, Houdini right now with the cops, texture stuff. I think that's a dark arts which I'm interested in right now. I just want to go back and do some experiments on it with Octane. Yeah, I'm just trying to get the Octane pipeline to going with the Houdini, just trying to learn that better. Yeah, that's what's kind of in 3D software based. Yeah, super interesting for me right now. A lot of people are using touch designer. I'm seeing some amazing touch designer stuff. So I would definitely love to explore that. Oh, I forgot to mention Unreal Engine. That is something I love doing. But again, there's only so much time in a day. So I can like spend like hours on creating this scene in Unreal Engine. And oh, I haven't touched Houdini in a while. And then I go to Houdini and I forget about Unreal Engine. Uh, So that, but mixing the analog stuff with Unreal Engine and Touch Designer is something that I'm planning right now. But yeah, just some ideas which can be super cool if I play with some real time textures in Unreal and Touch Design, or yeah, because Touch Designer is real time and projected, and both Unreal and Touch Designer together are that kind of softwares, you know. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I want to say like music is super important to me. For me, like musically, like I must mention, like I mentioned, Godard, Lane Schwanker, why like Amon Tobin. I don't know if you've heard of Amon Tobin. Uh, Amon Tobin is like my musical inspiration. Like for the longest, like all my works, I use uh, Amon Tobin to start off with. Like, you know, either uh, yeah, like many title sequences, like this one blockbuster I was telling you, the director had no idea about the music, so I just cut the entire title sequence to one. So it's got a moniker called Two Fingers, where they make like very club bass music, and it's like super cool stuff. So I cut the entire like a Bollywood title sequence on Amon Tovin, and I showed it to the director, and he like fell off his chair. He was like, "Wow, this is so cool! Yeah, gotta get my sound guy to make it like that." And they actually replicated as much as possible from there and put it over there. Um, then yeah, sometimes like for I just put in my music, and then I see that the director has used like in another show I did on Netflix, like the director did not know uh what music to use. So you know MIA, she's a Sri Lankan rapper, like Paper Planes and stuff like that. Uh so I used her song to cut the create the title sequence, and then they used that reference to create uh the the show. So I do that a lot, like because I love music and I'm very strong, I think musically. And I'm a control freak, right? So I just put in my music and I show it to them, and then they like that. And then they go back and try to make it as close to that music. So, which feels great sometimes, you know, say, oh, my references went on right there. So, yeah.